Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson. Also known by shining right here in the city, members in the county, sheriff, state, and Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday afternoon, June the 29th, 2025. The time is 2:50 p.m. First, I thank my family, my support for you. Continue to encourage, support, continue keep myself employed in the tri-state area, continue to further my education, more work out life, continue to pursue my social research, being administrative contract, market, present time, took a break from going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by shining right here in the city, members in the county, sheriff, state, Tennessee. Today's date, Sunday afternoon, June the 29th, 2025. Time 2:51 p.m. First thing, thank my family, my support for you. Continue to encourage, continue to keep myself employed in the tri-state area, continue to further my education. Moral college line, continue to pursue my social research, being administrative contract, market, present time, taking a break, going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, today, I want to first say thank you to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, for blessing me to see another day, and thank for all the guidance that He provides us all with. And so, a lot of things been transpiring, and I know a lot of times I understand about like praying about certain things, like about these wars that are being fought, and so even if it's one moment of peace, where the two warring sides can agree to a ceasefire or some kind of agreement where they try to stop all this fighting and try to bring this war to just a complete end. And so there have been some things that have transpired, just like, for example, the Israelis and the Iranians been having having problems with each other, and been firing missiles back and forth, and as of right now, it's a ceasefire. So I feel like prayers have been answered. It's a ceasefire. Now, however long it lasts, it may but as of right now, it's a ceasefire. And then there was a war that I mentioned this on the continent of Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. The Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and nations around that area. There's been a lot of fighting and wars, and so recently they came to an agreement that they're gonna try to stop all this fighting and this war and stuff. So again, prayer, when you pray, feel like prayer's been answered. Prayer been answered. And so, we're gonna continue to pray for all these wars, period, all around the world, all these wars, conflicts and disagreements and things of this nature. And continue to pray. And we're gonna continue to pray about these natural disasters and things of this nature. And so I know I didn't make my video last week. Wasn't my fault. It was technical. Some internet provider. It wasn't on my end. I can just say the internet provider. But I'm able to make my video today. And being being that this is the month of June, you know, this is Black Music Month. You know, we had Father's Day, and after Father's Day we had Juneteenth, and so hope and pray that any and everybody, you know, had a safe and happy Juneteenth celebration. And so, well, you know, I mean, you know, from my point of view, you know, everybody got an opinion. I agree with the whole idea. You know, just being able to say, you know, look, the end of slavery and people being able to, you know, to live as a not being enslaved. And so to think about people being enslaved and the atrocities that are not just only African American. I said this once before, and I'm gonna say it again about this doctrine and this ideology. When we talk about these Indo-Europeans, one thing don't never leave out. I feel like the first thing you should always say, no matter, irregardless about atrocity in any other place on the earth, you know, don't never, ever negate the atrocities that the Indo-Europeans perpetrate against other Indo-Europeans. That's a serious thing. When we talk about atrocities, we talk about violence, crime. You know what I'm saying? See, some, you know, people committing, we going back in history for a moment. We're not going to spend too much time. We're going to mention it. But we mentioned it because when we brought up Juneteenth, and we talking about enslaved, about this ideology and about these doctrines and all that. See, this is where the problem come in. You can say people can be free, but that ideology, that doctrine, the people that you claim that you're talking about being enslaved, when we talk about this Indo-European and all this ideology, this doctrines, you know, that's some serious stuff. They, you know, they be perpetrating crimes against other Indo-Europeans, and people submit, be subservient. You know what I'm saying? Be subservient to other Indo-Europeans through war, violence. See, we talk about being enslaved. People live in fear. You know, when they said it's some World War I, World War II, and they created this North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that's what they was trying to say. That's really what they were. It was going to be another war. It was going to be another one. If they didn't have that North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Indo-Europeans would still be at war right now. It would not, and then they'll drag the United States in. And then, you know, first of all, the United Kingdom, that was a time when the United Kingdom was all over this earth. We had Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They was up under this United Kingdom, then including nations in sub-Saharan Africa as well as in the Middle East, who were up under this flag, the United Kingdom. Even Hong Kong in China was up under the United Kingdom. Things are different today. You got the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, then you got what's the other, SATO, the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. Then you got all these different treaties, and you know, to prevent war. And one of the biggest places that they had all these wars is in Europe. And see, all this ideology, all these doctrines, before you even go anywhere, you look at the Indo-European organized crime, and it comes in various forms, just like slavery. It comes in various forms. And so, when we look at, we talk about Juneteenth and, just the immediate, free the slaves. And it took time for all, to be informed that the Civil War was over. And that the end of slavery, the Emancipation Proclamation, and so on and so forth, and all kind of laws, things started to change. And what should not be overlooked is this Indo-European in Europe. The doctrine, the various doctrines, and these ideologies, the various ideologies, even today, should not be overlooked. Yes, myself as well as others, we celebrate Juneteenth in its various forms, to be appreciative and just to be happy that, slavery is over. And I think that's a good thing, to always be happy that slavery ended. We look back on history and we see where we came from to today. That goes for everybody. Everybody. We look in the past, we say, we look at where we came, how far we did come, in various points, from an economic point, from housing, medical, dental. We look at all these things. We look at the positive things that have been done, the advancements that have been made. And so we can say, thank you, Jesus. I know the Jews will be like, well, thank God. Don't say Jehovah. Don't say Jehovah now. It's gonna be some confusion. Because the Protestants, they were running their mouth and didn't have no business running their mouth. And so, we can be happy that slavery ended. We can be happy. That's a good reason to be happy. And it shouldn't be overlooked that slavery ended. But what we want to do, we don't want to never negate the Indo-European. See, when you talk about slavery, do you think it's right for a person to teach another person to hate other people? That's what, and not just hate. See, I want you not to forget what Indo-Europeans be teaching about other Indo-Europeans. They'll get into it. They'll get into it because they just like the Germans and all their Germans. Then you got all these Iranians, a lot in the billions. You go to India, I know the Dravidians. They not Indo-European. The Dravidians, they mostly in the southern part of India, the Dravidians. Then you talk about all in the northern India, mostly Indo-European, Iranians. including this other group, the Roman. They are Iranians. They all over Europe. So this then you got Iran. And then you got all these Iranians who live outside of Iran and outside of India, all over the world. So they in the billions. Then they classified as being Indo-European. So when then you got the Latins, and then you got the Greeks. Then you got the Armenians and the Slavics. Oh, they didn't got into it in the past. You know they would get into it. Oh yeah, they will. The Indo-European will kill each other. Yeah, they've done it in the past, and they'll do it again. But see, it's all this ideology. It's all these doctrines. It's all this stuff they try to teach people. And so, it ain't just that this Indo-European started talking about it. But see, all that was just ideology. Indo-European teaching other Indo-European to hate somebody because they not Indo-European. But what they didn't say is what the Indo-Europeans were doing to other Indo-Europeans, because they hate each other. That's what they didn't say. See, they didn't show you what the Indo-Europeans were doing to other Indo-Europeans, because they hate each other. So Juneteenth is a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm glad that the federal government, made it a holiday. I really am. Just like Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. I'm glad. I'm glad there's a federal holiday. And I'm glad that Juneteenth is a federal holiday. It should be a holiday. Because if there's anything in the history of the United States of America that should not be forgotten, it's slavery. And then think about it. See, before we get, I'm not going to negate the first and Native American and the effects that slavery had on the first and Native Americans. There again, don't negate the first, the Indo-European and what Indo-Europeans do to each other, not just those who are not Indo-European. Because there again, that's the same thing. The Indo-European hate other Indo-Europeans. So I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God, for blessings and guidance. Provide all of us with. Now, going to continue, like I said, we're going to continue on prehistoric religion because it's such a serious subject. You know what I'm saying? And you can't do anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It take all these departments of education. Everybody's involved. When you think about prehistoric religion, as fields of science continue to grow, there was a time when there wasn't no DNA. It was a time when you didn't even, when Dr. Charles Drew did blood transfusion, talking about blood and all this. There was a time when that technology wasn't even in existence. Then Dr. Charles Drew, dealing with blood and stuff, and talking about cells and all that, and just like the National Geological Society. There was a time when they didn't have the equipment that they have today to do the research that they do. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the what they call it, the National Oceanic atmospheric administration, and dealing with the weather. And just think about going out in space, the advancements that have been made, the progress, a lot of reasons why we live a little better because we able to send satellites out in space and they monitor the atmosphere, the climate. We make better choices and better decisions because we put satellites out in space and we're trying to deal with industrialization and how, and how to keep the climate from being, and keep this planet from being destroyed and killing all us. We go extinct. You understand? We as human beings, we as the modern humans, we go extinct. We, what the scientific community call Homo and then sapiens, we end up going extinct. Or what they call Homo sapiens, or anatomically modern humans. And when we be talking about this another thing about the technology that the technological advancements that have been made to study us, and to study the past. And so, there again, when we be talking about all these ideologies and doctrines, see, all this stuff about race, see, the so-called Indo-European, and then trying to call other groups of people the mongrels and the Negroid, you understand, and making all these derogatory classifications about other people who were not Indo-European. See what I'm saying? And then, because of the technological advancements, a lot of the ideologies, a lot of the doctrines have been debunked. You know what I'm saying? With all these fossils being found. See, a lot of fossils had not been found. They had not been found in BCE. They didn't have the technological advancements in BCE that we have today. So when we talk about Alexander the Great being great and going around trying to conquer other Indo-Europeans as well as the Latins and other Indo-Europeans, they talk about the Germans, the Celtics, in their desire to conquer. They had to go and fight. Then you had all these Latins, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Italians, the Latins, and the French, the Latins, now today the Romanians, who were fighting against other Indo-Europeans, as well as the Persians and the Medes, Indo-European. That's all they did was fight who was going to be in control, as well as the Slavics, who was going to be in control. But see, a lot of things that people talked about, those ideologies, those doctrines, because of technological advancements, people don't necessarily want to listen, even though they are aware of all these various ideologies and doctrines. A lot of those ideologies and doctrines that the Indo-Europeans were teaching each other and fighting against each other are not even being looked at as being true. That's the reason why I mentioned about saying Jehovah. Because first of all, we know who made it up. It was the Protestants. That's who made up that Jehovah. The Protestants. And you ain't going to necessarily say it's something true. It's just something they made up. And in the process of them making it, what they was really trying to say is the same thing about their ideology and their doctrine. That they were superior to other people. That's what they was really trying to say when they said Jehovah. That they were superior. They can't say that today. You got the little chimpanzee over in the zoo being studied. And the gorilla. And the orangutan. But they all fall up under. What's that TRAD? Let me click over. Click over. All these various classifications. Click over. Australopithecus. But before you get to Australopithecus, you got to go to who? What's his name? Intelligence evolves suggest early hominins. Here we go. We got to go over here to hominini. We got to go over here to hominini. And his taxonomic form a taxonomic tribe of the subfamily Homininae. They comprise two extant genera, Homo, humans, and who else? And Pan, chimpanzees and bonobos. And in standard use exclude the genus Glorilla, but don't go too fast now, because you're going to find out who the gorilla is. He in the same thing. He's just a split off. Gorillas, which is grouped separately within the subfamily Homininae. So they got a little chart there. Which one is Homininae? Well, see, Homininae, the line goes up to Hominidae. And from Hominidae, you got two that split out. Homininae and what's his other one? Panginae. And then from him, from the Hominidae, it goes up to the what? My pronunciation now. Hominoidae. And so that's at the top. That's the superfamily. So the superfamily is the Hominoidae. Then you got the family. My pronunciation. Hominidae. And who else? Hylobatidae. So that's the family. Now what's the subfamily? Homininae. And who else? Panginae. And what else? What's the tribe? Hominini. And who else? Gorolini. So they split out from Homininae. So whatever you thought about a race, whatever you thought about being superior, you Homininae with the gorilla. And who else? Now that was the tribe, the Hominini, and the Gorolini. And you have what? Genus. homo and pan. That's homonini. Homo and pan. Who is pan? Let me scroll. Who is pan? Now, pan. Pan. Who is pan? Well, we finna see. Pan. The genus pan consists of two extant, not extinct, extant species. The chimpanzee and the bonobo. Taxonomically, these two apes species are collectively termed panini. However, both species are more commonly referred to, collectively use the generalized term, chimpanzees or chimps. So that's pan. And and they come from the tribe homonini. Homo and pan. We are homonini. And when you say homonini, that other one is gorolini. That's a homonine. That's the tribe. And the subfamily. So the subfamily is homonine, but the tribe is homonini and gorolini. And we say pan is who? The chimps. We right next to each other. Homo, pan, and who else? Gorilla. And there's one more. Got to go back up here to the family. Hominidae. And then there's a line that's branched off. Punginae. And from Punginae, Pungo. That's the orangutan. Orangutans are great apes as well, native to the rainforests of Indonesia and Malaysia. They are now found only in parts of Borneo and Sumatra, but during the Pleistocene, we're going to get to that. They range throughout Southeast Asia and South China, classified in the genus Pungo. That's who Pungo is. So we right next to each other. And then there's another one that branched off. See, when you talk about the family, the hominidae got four in that family. And then at the bottom down in the genus, you got Homo, Pan, Gorilla, and Pungo. But there's another one that go back up to the superfamily. Hominoideae. And then you got the family, Hylobatidae. And then from the subfamily goes all the way down to the four genera. So who is this? All right, let me see. Scroll. Here we go. That's where it branched off. Now I had to click over there. That's what we're looking at. The gibbons. They are apes. They are apes in the family Hylobatidae. The family historically contained one genus, but now it's split into 4 extinct genera and 20 species. Gibbons live in subtropical and tropical forests from eastern Bangladesh and northeast India to southeast Asia and Indonesia, including the islands of Sumatra, Borneo, and Java. Also called the lesser apes, gibbons differ from the great apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and humans in being smaller. So now, did you hear that? We are ape. When they say homo, humans, we are ape. But see, we in a different, we on that other side, but we still all fall up under that super family. From that super family, you had all these over here. Then you had this Hylobatidae over here. That's who that is, the gibbons. Now the gibbons, they don't have a tail. Like all of the apes, gibbons are tailless. Now, let me slow down. Let me go back. Now, gibbons, they differ from the great apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and humans. Say that again. Also called the lesser apes, gibbons, differ from the great apes, chimpanzees, that include bonobos, the chimps, gorillas, orangutans, and who else? Humans, homo, and being smaller. So the gibbons, he is an ape, but he a lesser ape. He a little ape. Being small, exhibiting low sexual dimorphism. Wait a minute. Alright, and not making nests. See, he don't make a nest. Like all other apes, he don't have no tail. Gibbons are tailless. Unlike most other great apes, gibbons frequently form long-term pair bonds. Their primary mode of locomotion, brachiothon, or arm swing. That means they swing in trees and swing a lot. Brachiothon involves swinging from branch to branch for distance up to 15 miles, 50 feet, and speeds as fast as 55 miles per hour. They can also make leaps up to 8 meters and walk bipedally with their arms raised for balance. They are the fastest of all tree-dwelling, non-flying mammals. Depending on the species and sex, gibbons' fur coloration varies from dark to light brown shades and any shade between black and white, though a completely white gibbon is rare. So when we talk about this family, make this clear. When the scientists say Hominoideae, that's at the very top of the superfamily, they saying apes, hominoids, apes. We are apes. Homo, we apes. And then when you look at this group over here, these gibbons, see you got a group that's called a Hylobatidae, and then they all classified as gibbons. So you got the Siamang is an endangered arboreal black-furred gibbon, native to the forests of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. The largest of the gibbons, the Siamang, can be twice the size of other gibbons. So he the biggest of them all. He the largest of the gibbons. Then they got this other one, the Holok, tree primate species. Now he native to eastern Bangladesh and northeast India, Myanmar, and southwest China, the Holok. And then you got the Nomascus, is the second most species genus. Now the Holok was third. Then the Holok was third. It's the 3 primate species of genus Holok in the gibbon family. And then the Nomacus is the second most species genus of the gibbon family. He was a subgenus of the Hylobuck, with all individuals considered to be one species. All right, the Nomacus. And then you got the Hylobates, is one of the 4 genera of gibbons. See, the gibbons, they mostly be in the trees, swinging. That's what they mean. They be in the trees, swinging from branch to branch. Now, that don't mean he won't walk. I mean, because, you know, if he's looking for food or something, you know, he'll come out the tree and, you know, and get on his hind legs and use his 2 hands to pick up stuff off the ground. Then he'll jump back up in the tree, because I guarantee one of them snakes will try to eat him. He'll be making all that noise up in the tree trying to give alerts. Oh, you know you didn't watch the animal show. There'll be him up in the tree making all that daggum noise up there. When one of them snakes be on the ground, there'll be him up in the tree making all that noise, giving the alert. But see, like we were talking about, this Indo-European with all them ideologies and doctrines. See, this is the reason why. This is the reason why them ideologies and them doctrines not going to stand up. Because you are ape with everybody else. With every human is an ape. So all that stuff about being superior, you can't even talk to a gibbon. Because you ain't superior than a gibbon. You're an ape. You're in a super family. Hominoideae. The super family. You're an ape. This is what we talk. This is what we on prehistoric religion, and when we talk about hominids,
Just that.
And this is the super family, the ape. what I read, I was trying to find this timeline. I'm using a tablet, and there's a difference between the desktop and the tablet. See, we got this Pleistocene and this Pliocene and the Miocene. And see, there again, see, this is a good thing for us to go over, is the advancements in technology and how all these fossils are being found by scientists, and they doing all this research. Like I said, but I was looking at, I was trying to find, because they got this hominin timeline on the desktop. And like I said, you got Pleistocene, Pliocene, and Miocene. And so when you talk about million years ago, we're talking about this earlier apes. And by the time you get to the, this in the Miocene. And now they even found these fossils. And then when you talk about the gorilla split, Turkey, that's in the Miocene. And then we see this chimpanzee split somewhere around, still in the Miocene. Now, when you start talking about this earliest bipedal, still in the Miocene. Then the earliest sign of Ardipithecus, still in the Miocene. When you get to the Pliocene, you start seeing this hominini. Now the earliest sign of Australopithecus is in the Pliocene. Because see, you got homonini, and from homonini, you got the earliest sign of Australopithecus. Now, Ardipithecus ramidus is a species of Australopithecine from the far region of early Pliocene, Ethiopia, 4.4 million years ago. And then you get to the Ardipithecus. We in the Pliocene. And when they was talking about them stone tools, the earliest stone tools, we talking about 3.4 million years ago. And ended between 4000 BC and 2000 BC with the advent of the metalworking. So that was the earliest stone tool. And who was that? That was like Africanus. Australopithecine, which lived between 3.3 and 2.1 million years ago in the late Pliocene to early Pleistocene down in South Africa. Then we get to Australopithecus. Or earliest sign of Homo. They found him over in Ethiopia too. Then you got Homo rudolfensis. It's an archaic human, still in the early Pleistocene. They found him in East Africa. Now, when you're talking about this theory about these archaic humans out of Africa and throughout Eurasia, took place in the course of the lower Paleolithic and into the beginning middle Paleolithic. Now you remember the lower Paleolithic, that's a million years ago. Between about 2.1 million, 2 million years ago. That's what they be talking about, this out of Africa. That was Homo habilis. And what's this? Australopithecus sediba. That's down in South Africa. They found that one down in South Africa. Now you start talking about this earliest fire and cooking. Homo ergaster, archaic human who lived in Africa in the early Pleistocene. Then you got Homo antecessor, one of them archaic human. They found him over in Spanish Sierra de Atapuerca, early Pleistocene. Then you get the Homo erectus, archaic human from the Pleistocene, 2 million years ago. And then apparently he evolved a human-like body plan and gait, and then left Africa and colonized Asia and Europe, and also fire. right, let me see. Just to touch on what we were talking about, this race stuff. This is the reason why the Indo-Europeans, that's exactly what they were doing. When they found, a lot of these people over in Europe claimed to was doing science in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, whatever. And they claimed to be scientists. And they didn't tell the truth. See, it was all about trying to make themselves superior. When they was trying to do research, they were trying to prove that the European was superior. See, they weren't trying to benefit all mankind. They were just, their objective was to prove that whoever these Indo-Europeans were the superior race. Just to give you a point, when we were talking about this divergences. And when they found them, over in Europe. They claimed that he was antediluvian. And what that means is the antediluvian period is the time period chronicled in the Bible between the fall of man and the Genesis flood narrative in biblical cosmology. And they see what they said about Homo heidelbergensis. They said that it was the oldest identified human fossil in Europe, and one of the scientists, Schottensack, described it as an antediluvian race before the Great Flood, which would eventually evolve into living Europeans. By the mid-20th century, all archaic human taxa were lumped as subspecies of either Homo erectus or Homo sapiens, with the former evolving into the latter without any coexistence. The species was usually lumped as Homo erectus heidelbergensis, while its utility was complicated by its definition on a jawbone, which is rarely ever found, and otherwise bear a few diagnostic features. Then you got this British physical anthropologist Chris Stringer revived the species in 1983, redefining it as a Euro-African ancestor of modern humans and Neanderthal, using the name Cotway, so blah 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 blah. These skulls are united mainly by their supraorbital torus brow ridge anatomy. See, this is what the Europeans did. They weren't trying to tell the truth. They were just trying to lie to themselves as well as others. But because of science now, the same science has debunk the lies that they've been telling. Homo heidelbergensis may have evolved from Homo ergaster, possibly following an intense population bottleneck. Now, population dispersed into Europe by 700,000 years ago, spread late Acheulean stone tools and settlements, became more permanent by 500,000 years ago. Homo heidelbergensis may have been an active hunter of big game, including straight-tusked elephant and rhinoceros, but at least some population also subsisted significantly on food plants and small game. Fire does not seem to have been used frequently, but huts and temporary shelters may have been constructed at least around Europe. And they said that there are some instances of nondescript etchings on pebbles, as well as modified and heated ochre, which could have been done with symbolic intention. And so, now the research history. So I wanted to tell you that. So now we done came down to see where I'm at is where I'm at. I'm over here on Homo heidelbergensis. Now I'm gonna scroll down to the research history, classification, raciology. On 21st October 1907, miners recovered a large human mandible, lower jaw, about 21 blah 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 blah, down the Grimferain sand pit near the village of Mauer. That's southeast Heidelberg. That's in Germany. The German geologists Ernst Wilhelm Bernick and Adolf Sauer had early characterized the site as diluvial deposits. Remnants of the Great Flood, dating to the Tertiary. Mile 1 was the oldest European human fossil at the time. German anthropologist Otto Schattensack made the first report of the skull in 1908, classifying it as a new human species, Homo heidelbergensis, after Neanderthals. Homo neanderthalensis. It was the second named fossil species in the genus Homo. Schattensack noted the jaw's exceptionally primitive anatomy with its massive size and lack of chin, yet more modern traits such as small teeth, reminiscent of the lower. Pay attention to this. This is what he said. Listen to this. Catch this word, this phrase. Reminiscent of the lower races. Say that again. Lower races. Say it one more time. Lower races. And what that means? A racial hierarchy is a system of stratification that is based on the belief that some racial groups are superior to other racial groups. At various points of history, racial hierarchies have featured in societies, often being formally instituted in law, such as in the Nuremberg laws in Nazi Germany. You see what I'm talking about? See what we touched on? That's the reason why Juneteenth is important. Because you've been proven to be a liar. And see, this is what I've said. When you commit atrocities against other Indo-Europeans with these lies. So again, reminiscent of the lower races instead of living Europeans. Therefore, he concluded Mao 1 must represent an ancient European ancestor, which he claimed was further supported by several ontogenetic developments. What's that? Ontogenetic. Ontogeny is the origination and development of an organism, usually from the line of fertilization of the egg to adult. Now, the term can also be used to refer to the study of the entirety of an organism's lifespan. All right. So, ontogenetic developments in Europeans. He also claimed that the many similarities with non-human apes indicate that mile 1 lies near the last common ancestor of apes and humans. Based on a mammal fauna of the site, he concluded that the jawbone was of antediluvian. That's what we was talking about the Bible, about the flood. And that the jawbone was antediluvian age before the great flood. But he had failed to find Adam, who he said was the progenitor of all humans, including Homo heidelbergensis, but certainly not Aboriginal Australians. So, and then in 1909, Croatian archaeologist Dragutin Drojanovic Kramberger recommended renaming mile 1 H. amentalis chinless, as at the time every other jaw classified in the genus Homo had at least a weak chin. In 1909, Italian paleontologist Guido Bonarelli proposed erecting a new genus as Paranthropus heidelbergensis to recognize its age and primitiveness. German anthropologist Hans Weiner suggested Europanthropus heidelbergensis, and German anthropologist Ludwig Wilson Rhinanthropus heidelbergensis for a similar reason. In 1927, Czech American anthropologist Alice Herlicker considered it a European variant of the Java man, Pithecanthropus erectus, now Homo erectus erectus. In 1928, Jewish-German anatomist Franz Wiedenreich made a similar opinion. In 1937, American archaeologist Theodore D. McCown and British anatomist Sir Arthur Keith suggested extending Paleoanthropus to any other fossil with many Neanderthal features, with P. heidelbergensis as the oldest member. They also included P. neanderthalensis, specifically La Chapelle All Saints 1 and Neanderthal 1, P. ringdorfensis and P. crapensis, and P. palestinensis. And so, as you start getting away from, like, during that period of time, you start coming to more modern, you start seeing people doing things different. Like modern evolutionary synthesis. Now, by the middle of the century, with the formulation of modern evolutionary science, that's talking about refers to several perspectives on evolutionary biology. Now, the common convention was to relegate all ancient human specimens excuse me, into the genus Homo and designate only a single species of Homo at any point in time, Homo erectus, which evolved into Homo sapiens anagenesis, and that anagenesis is the gradual evolution of a species that continues to exist as an interbreeding population. This contrasts with cladogenesis, which occurs when branching or splitting occurs, leading to two or more lineages and resulting in separate species. The many defined species of archaic hunt humans, including Heidelbergensis, were generally lumped as subspecies of either Homo erectus or Homo sapiens. This left Homo erectus and Homo sapiens considerably polytypic. And so what that's talking about in biology, polymorphism is the occurrence of two or more clearly different morphs or forms, also referred to as alternative phenotypes, in the population of a species. To be classified as such, morphs must occupy the same habitat at the same time and belong to a panmimetic population. So that's what they're talking about, considered polytypic and anatomically variable. In 1963, Russian-American geneticist Theodosis Dobzhansky noted that Middle Pleistocene, Western and Eastern Eurasia, the former represented by Homo erectus heidelbergensis and the Tunisian Homo erectus mauritanicus, and the latter by the Chinese Homo erectus pekinensis and Homo erectus erectus, had significant anatomical and technological differences. Movie line. And he forwarded the possibility that these two groups represented distinct but contemporary species, cladogenesis, with Homo erectus in the east and the ancestors of Homo sapiens in the west. In 1972, American paleoanthropologist Bernard Campbell divided Middle Pleistocene Homo erectus into two chrono subspecies. That is, designated a given subspecies as more closely related to certain subspecies over others. One group including Homo erectus heidelbergensis and Homo erectus mauritanicus and Homo erectus pekinensis, and the other the Tanzanian Homo erectus leaky, Odobe George Bed 4th, and Homo erectus. At this point, Homo erectus heidelbergensis included at least mile 1 in the Hungarian is the nickname given to a fragmentary Middle Pleistocene human occipital. Now, though Homo heidelbergensis became a popular designation. In 2000, though, American anthropologist Sally McBurney and Allison S. Brooks argued that Homo heidelbergensis should be reserved for only direct ancestors of Neanderthals in Europe. They recommended reviving Homo rhodesiensis to house African Middle Pleistocene fossils they believe were directly ancestral to modern humans. Spanish paleoanthropologist Juan Luis Assuege and colleagues made a similar opinion while studying the Spanish Cima de los Huso hominins, which comprised the vast majority of the Middle Pleistocene human fossil record. They opted to classify every Middle Pleistocene European fossil as a Neanderthal ancestor under the name Homo heidelbergensis and placed the 1 million year old Spanish Homo antecessor as the last common ancestor of modern humans and Neanderthals. Stringer disagreed with the inclusion of the Semidelos Hoese hominins and Homo heidelbergensis, preferring to classify them as Neanderthals. Now, while we talking about this Neanderthal, I want to mention this other group. The Denisovans, the Denisova hominins. They're an extinct species or subspecies of archaic human. They ranged across Asia during the Lower and Middle Paleolithic and lived based on current evidence from 285,000 to 25,000 years ago. Denisovans are known from few physical remains. Consequently, most of what is known about them comes from DNA evidence. No formal species name has been established pending more complete fossil material. In 2025 analysis of the mitochondrial DNA and endogenous protein from the holotype of Homo longi. Now, Homo longi is an extinct species of archaic human identified from a nearly complete skull nicknamed Dragon Man from Harbin on the northeast China plain, dating to a minimum 146,000 years ago during the Middle Pleistocene. Homo longi had been hypothesized to be the same species as the Denisovans, and studies of proteins recovered from the holotype skull and the mitochondrial DNA from his dental calculus published in 2020 supported his Denisovan affinities. Now, Homo longi is broadly anatomically similar to other Middle Pleistocene Chinese specimens. Like other archaic humans, the skull is low and long with massively developed brow ridges, wide eye sockets, and a large mouth. The skull is the longest ever found from any human species. Like modern humans, the face is rather flat, but with a larger nose. The brain volume was 1,420 cc. within the range of modern humans and Neanderthals. All right, let me see here. Okay, so let me click back, but now this Denisovan, so given the holotype for Homo longi has been given to be a Denisovan, and the fact that other binomial species names such as Homo altensis and Homo danelensis, Homo mapiensis, and Homo schigensis are available based on the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature code. The name Homo longi provisionally has priority for the binomial name for the Denisovans. British paleoanthropologist String commented that Homo longi would be the appropriate species name for the Denisovans. Now, the first identification of a Denisovan individual occurred in 2010 based on mitochondrial DNA extracted from a juvenile finger bone excavated from the Siberian Denisova cave in the Altai Mountains in 2008. Nuclear DNA indicates close affinities with Neanderthals. The cave was also periodically inhabited by Neanderthals, but it is unclear whether Neanderthals and Denisovans ever cohabitated in the cave. Additional specimens from Denisova cave was subsequently identified, as was a single specimen from the Bashia Crash Cave on the Tibetan Plateau and Cobra Cave in the Annamite Mountains of Laos. DNA evidence suggests they had dark skin, eyes, and hair. They had a Neanderthal-like build and facial features. However, they had larger molars, which are reminiscent of middle to late Pleistocene archaic humans and Australopithecines. Denisovans interbred with modern humans with a high percentage, roughly 5%, occurring in Melanesians, Aboriginal Australians, and Filipino Negritos. This distribution suggests that there were Denisovan populations across Asia. There is also evidence of interbreeding with the Altai Neanderthal population, with about 17% of the Denisovan genome from Denisova cave deriving from them. A first-generation hybrid nicknamed Denny was discovered with a Denisovan father and a Neanderthal mother. Additionally, 4% of the Denisovan genome comes from an unknown archaic human species which diverged from modern humans over 1 million years ago. So we have to pay attention to these things. And this, like I said earlier, and I'm going to say this again, that's one of the reasons why Juneteenth, end of slavery, when these Europeans came over, the Indo-Europeans came over, before they came over, see, this is the reason why the Indo-Europeans have so many problems with each other about this race. That's the reason why they fight with each other, because they so worried about who their ancestors were and where they came from. They distort the Bible. As you can see, I ain't just sitting here saying, as you can see, there were many distortions of the Bible. So I'm clicking back over to what was it? To Homo heidelbergensis. But I just wanted to make sure that while we talking about heidelbergensis, we don't negate Denisovan. Now, while I'm over here, I'm going to click back over. Now, we was over here on this Homo heidelbergensis. I'm going to click back to evolutionary history, and we was over here on homonini. So now, when we talk about homonini, we see how important it is. See, this Indo-European, when you talk about homonini, when you talk about this superfamily, Hominoideae, the taxonomic classification of the superfamily, you're an ape. That's what they tell you. See, that's what the scientists telling everybody, any and everybody. You are an ape. Emphasizing the tribe homonini. This tribe, lower left in graphic, comprised two general, Homo and Pan. While gorillas are classified as separate from these as a single genus gorilla or tribe Gorillini, all of subfamily Homininae. And so when you go back to the superfamily, then you go to the family, this is where you split at Hominidae and Hylobatidae. And we know that the Hylobatidae, that's the gibbons. That's the gibbons. And then from that, you had the four, you had those four splits. But then when you come back over here to the Hominidae, you have another line going to the Homininae. That's when you come down to Hominini. There's Homo and Pan. And then let me go back up. When you go back up to Homininae, you got this line, Gorillini, and then you have gorilla. Now, when you go back up to the Hominidae, you got this line, Pungene, and Pongo, the orangutan. That's Pongo. You got the chimpanzees, the gorillas, and you got Homo, and you got Pongo. We Homo, we are an ape. So I'm back over here on this evolutionary history. Now, before I end today's video, we're going to touch on this Miocene and this Pliocene and Pleistocene. The Miocene is the first geological epoch of the Neogene period, and it extends from about 23.3 to 5.333 million years ago. The Miocene was named by Scottish geologist Charles Lyell. The name comes from the Greek words less and new, and means less recent because it has 18% fewer modern marine invertebrates than the Pliocene had. The Miocene followed the Oligocene and preceded the Pliocene. So we're hearing these words. So let me click. Let me click on Neogene first. The Neogene is a geological period and system that spans 20 to 45 million years from the end of the Paleogene period. Now, what we talking about? The Paleogene period is a geological period and system that spans 43 million years from the end of the Cretaceous period, beginning of the Neogene period. It is the first period of the Cenozoic era, the 10th period of the Phanerozoic, and is divided into the Paleocene, Eocene, and Oligocene. All right. Now, to the beginning of the present Quaternary period. All right. It is the second period of the Cenozoic. The Cenozoic era is Earth's current geological era, representing the last 66 million years of Earth's history. It is characterized by the dominance of mammals, insects, birds, and angiosperms. It is the latest of three geological eras of the Phanerozoic eon, preceded by the Mesozoic and Paleozoic. All right. Now, the Neogene is subdivided into two epochs. Now, the geological time scale, or geological time scale. Let me rephrase that. Let me say that again. The geologic time scale or geological time scale is a representation of time based on the rock record of Earth. It is a system of chronological dating that uses chronostratigraphy and geochronology. It's used primarily by earth science to describe the time and relationship of events. All right. Now, the earlier Miocene. The Miocene is the first geological epoch of the Neogene period and extends from about 22.3 to 5.333 million years ago. The Miocene was named by scholars. Okay, no way. All right. And later Pliocene. Now, the Pliocene is the epoch in the geological time scale that extends from 5.33 to 2.58 million years ago. It is the second and most recent epoch of the Neogene period in the Cenozoic era. The Pliocene follows the Miocene epoch and is followed by the Pleistocene epoch. Some geologists assert that the Neogene cannot be clearly delineated from the modern geological period. The Quaternary, the term Neogene was coined in 1853 by the Austrian paleontologist Maurice Home, 1815 and 1868. The earlier term Tertiary period was used to define the span of time now covered by Paleogene and Neogene, and despite no longer being recognized as a formal stratigraphic term, Tertiary still sometimes remains in informal use. During this period, mammals and birds continued to evolve into modern forms, while other groups of life remain relatively unchanged. The first humans, Homo habilis, appeared in Africa near the end of the period. Some continental movements took place, the most significant event being the connection of North and South America at the Isthmus of Panama. Late in the Pliocene, this cut off the warm ocean currents from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean, leaving only the Gulf Stream to transfer heat to the Arctic Ocean. The global climate cooled considerably throughout the Neogene, culminating in a series of continental glaciations in the Quaternary period that followed. So that's what the Neogene is. So let me click back over. Alright, so the Miocene followed the Oligocene and preceded the Neogene. And so, the Miocene is the first geological epoch of the Neogene period and extends from about 23.3 to 5.333 million years ago. The Miocene was named by Scottish geologist Charles. The name comes from the Greek words less and new, and means less recent because it had 18% fewer modern marine invertebrates than the Pliocene had. The Miocene followed the Oligocene and preceded the Pliocene. As Earth went from the Oligocene through the Miocene and into the Pliocene, the climate slowly cooled towards a series of ice ages. The Miocene boundaries are not marked by distinct global events, but by regionally defined transition from the warmer Oligocene to the cooler Pliocene epoch. During the early Miocene, Afro-Arabia collided with Eurasia, severing the connection between the Mediterranean and Indian Oceans. And allowing the interchange of fauna between Eurasia and Africa, including the dispersal of Proboscideans. What's that? Proboscidea is a taxonomic order of Afrotherian mammals containing one live living family, Elephantidae, and several extinct families. So it encompasses the elephants and their close relatives. 3 living species of elephants are currently recognized. All right, talking about the elephants and hominoids. The apes into Eurasia. During the late Miocene, the connections between the Atlantic and Mediterranean closed, causing the Mediterranean Sea to almost completely evaporate. This event is referred to as the Messinian Salinity Crisis. Then at the Miocene-Pliocene boundary, the Strait of Gibraltar opened and the Mediterranean refilled. That event is referred to as the Zanclean Flood. Also during the early Miocene, specifically the Aquitanian and Bertigallian stage, the apes first evolved, began diversifying and became widespread throughout the old world. Around the end of this epoch, the ancestors of humans had split away from the ancestors of the chimpanzees and had begun following their own evolutionary path during the final Messinian stage. That was like 7.5 to 5.3 million years of the Miocene. As in the Oligocene, before it, grasslands continued to expand and forests to dwindle. In the seas of the Miocene, kelp forests made their first appearance and soon became one of Earth's most productive ecosystems. The plants and animals of the Miocene were recognizably modern. Mammals and birds were well established. Whales, pinnipeds, and kelp spread. The Miocene is of particular interest to geologists and paleoclimatologists because major phases of the geology of the Himalaya occurred during that epoch, affecting monsoonal patterns in Asia, which were interlinked with glacial periods in the northern hemisphere. So like I said before I end today's video, all right, this is the timeline of human evolution. And so, the timeline of human evolution outlines the major events in the evolutionary lineage of the modern human species, Homo sapiens, throughout the history of life, beginning some 4 billion years ago down to recent evolution with Homo sapiens during and since the last glacial period. It includes brief explanations of the various taxonomic ranks in the human lineage. The timeline reflects the mainstream views in modern taxonomy based on the principle of phylogenetic nomenclature. In cases of open questions with no clear consensus, the main competing possibilities are briefly outlined. So this is the timeline of human evolution, but it also includes other, life. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Man. But see, 4 a.m. day video, nah, I lost my place. But when we were talking about all these things, and then you try to picture in your mind, they talking about these skulls that have been found. Now you know we got to deal with the cranial size, and when you try to deal with mating, you know, just like they were talking about the Neanderthal and the Denisovans, they both when they stink. The Denisovan when they stink, the Neanderthal when they stink. However, you know, because of interbreeding, you know, all this interbreeding and stuff like that, and so. And then they find, you know, today, you know, they find like DNA and all that kind of stuff. And so, but that species of human itself, the Neanderthal supposedly don't exist. You know, when they extinct, and also this other human Denisovan that they classify as a Denisovan when they extinct, but because of this interbreeding, as well as with other who came, you know. This was this theory out of Africa, and humans, you know, bred with them. Now, before we end today, you know, like we all this stuff about sex and all that. See, that's important. See that there again. See, this stuff comes up. Just like competition between male and female, you know, sexual selection. You know, pay attention to that now. Sexual selection is a mechanism of evolution in which members of one sex choose mates of the other sex, like male and female, to mate with and compete with members of the same sex for access to members of the opposite sex. These two forms of selection mean that some individuals have greater that some individuals have greater reproductive success than others within a population. For example, because they are more attractive or prefer more attractive partners to produce offspring. Let's see, all this stuff about some homosexuals and some lesbians, and talking about, see, we were talking about this ideology and this doctrine. See, that's important. Sexual selection is important. So that sexual selection is important. We're gonna come back on it and see where we was at. Sexual dimorphism. So that way I remember. Ornamentation and coloration. Alright. Sexual dimorphism. So I know where to click at. Man, I messed around and lost my spot. Australopithecine. And so and then one last thing before we're gonna close it on out. Cause we're gonna come back. We're gonna be on this anyway. But when we talking about prehistoric religion, the Neolithic Revolution, which established agriculture as the dominant lifestyle, occurred around 12,000 BC and ushered in a Neolithic. Neolithic society grew hierarchical and inegalitarian compared to its Paleolithic forebears, and their religious practice likely changed to suit. Neolithic religion may have been more structural and centralized than in the Paleolithic, and possibly engaged in ancestral worship, both of one's individual ancestor and the ancestor of an entire group, tribes, or settlements. And let me click over this. Now, the Neolithic Revolution, as the first agricultural revolution, was the wide-scale transition of many human cultures during the Neolithic period in Afro-Eurasia, from a lifestyle of hunting and gathering to one of agriculture and settlement, making an increasing large population possible. These settled communities permitted humans to observe and experiment with plants, learning how they grew and developed. This new knowledge led to the domestication of plants and the crops. So, like I said, we're going to come back to this. You know, we're going to be on this on indefinite. So, I'm going to end today's video. And so, thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, for all the blessings and guidance it provides all with. And, you know, this week, this coming week, Friday, here in the United States of America, celebrating Independence Day here in the United States of America, the 4th of July. And so I hope and pray that any and everybody have a safe and happy 4th of July celebration. And continue to pray about these natural disasters, and continue to pray that we have peace and end all these wars. And take care of yourself, and wish each and every one of you very best.